G'day! In today's video, I'm having a look at an S7 that isn't powering it up at all. But more so than actually going over a solution for this, I'm more going to be using this as a template to discuss my usual train of thoughts with broken phones that don't, or phones that just simply don't power up, that seem to be perfectly acceptable in appearance. So this one here, a little bit dirty on the screen, but typically, first of all, I'd be looking, if a customer handed me this, I'd be looking at the charger port, making sure that it's clean. So usually what I do with that is with a pair of tweezers, I normally give the charger port a clean out. So that's step number one that I'd normally do. Step number two from there would be to try it on a known good charger. So plenty of times you have people come in and they go, it's not charging. Turns out it's either their damaged charger cables, cheap charger cables, or they just simply failed. So first of all, you want to make sure that you try a phone that's not powering on a good known charger. So I've already done that on this one. The next thing to do is, if you have wireless charging as an option, see if you could charge it, as that will bypass the circuitry of the charger port itself. So if that is damaged, you could still wireless charge. More phones are getting that nowadays. Next up from there, if you're still having no luck, what I would usually do is remove the battery itself, or disconnect the battery, which I'll do that just now on this S7. So I've just sprayed some isopropyl. I have had it on my heat mat at 70, 75 degrees. So this will come apart nice and easily for me. Gotta be careful not to slice the NFC inside here. There we go, we're nice and in there. So usually it's just a matter of trying to troubleshoot and reduce potential problems. So by that I mean is, right now I'm going to open it up and disconnect the battery. From there I'll try it on a charger once more with the battery disconnected. You may get some activity on the phone itself, you may not, but it should at least give you a sign that it has life, even without the battery connected to the phone. Another good little test as well is, let's say it is drawing amps, but it's still not powering. Connect the phone via USB to a computer, and that should at least see if the data side of it's going. So typically if a phone is still powering, but there's nothing on the screen, if you hook it up via USB, it should at least detect it as an Android phone or an Apple phone, to give you some hope that there's actually still life left in the phone. Also, another thing I commonly see as well is just just stuck in system crashes, where there'll be a black screen on the phone, looks like there's no life at all, but in reality it's just completely locked up. So usually holding the button combination to do a forced reboot will kick it back into gear. There is another very useful tool that I use quite often when diagnosing dead phones. Which is one of these. Plugs into the charger port, USB cable plugs into here, and this screen lights up and tells me the voltage and the amps and the current amp draw. So usually if I plug it into a phone that looks completely dead, I get 5 volts, 000. Basically to me that's saying that the power output is fine, but the device isn't drawing any power. So usually that's not a good sign. I'll keep going and just take this apart. There we go. So from here, if you get it down to this level, disconnect the battery, plug it into the charge, if possible with one of these, and leave it for 5-10 minutes, see if you get a display on the screen. If you don't, then from there, if you have the equipment or an alternative battery, would be to do a battery swap, see how you go from there. Basically try and make sure the battery either A has charge, or any charge at all, Usually if the battery is dead flat when you connect it up, so let's say I take this battery out, put it on a reader, and this battery is 0% charged, then I would say there is a fault on the charging system somewhere. You may be able to bypass it by manually charging up this battery and putting it back in the phone, see if it will power up from there. If it does, you know the phone still has life. If I do that, next thing I'm usually looking at is the charger port or the charger flex to look at potentially replacing it, even if it physically looks good inside the plug. So I have had the battery out now, just charging for a little bit on this little device, which is quite handy. Been able to connect it up down here and just make sure that battery is fully charged, which now it is, but at this point in time I'm still having no luck. The next thing that I would do in my shoes from here would be to go to my parts phone. This one doesn't look exactly great. I know the motherboard works, I know the display works, I know the charger port and the battery work. So from here, I'm gonna try a different charger port on this phone here. Worst case scenario, I'll try this board in this phone, as I know everything else is functional on it, and see if it'll power up from there. If it doesn't, I'd probably consider it a dead main board, which is beyond the level of repair I can offer for the S7s, which nowadays most people would just be replacing them. But that is my rough train of thought while trying to diagnose a non-powering phone. The other thing to be on the lookout for is moisture indicators, to see whether or not there has been signs of liquid damage. But if there's no signs of liquid damage, there's some things that you simply just can't fix and that have failed and can't be repaired either at your level or at reasonable cost. So anyway, I hope that helps you with a rough guide on what to look for with phones. Anyway, bye.